So welcome. This is the work group for economic impact. We'll start off with roll call and then introduction to guests.
Excuse me, Andrew.
I'm here.
Micah.
I'm here.
Okay, sorry. Tony.
Here.
Chill.
Present.
Caroline.
Here.
Okay. Corey.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum.
Perfect. Would any guests like to introduce themselves?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. This is Tom Young, Northwest Concrete Masonry Association.
Hi, Tom. Welcome.
Thank you.
It's Henry Odom with Ecotope.
Okay, thank you.
Andrew, this is Jim Milbauer, just listening in.
Thanks, Jim.
Andrea Smith with Building Industry Association of Washington.
Thank you, Andrea.
This is Kevin Noel with Northwest Natural.
Thanks, Kevin.
And Ian Casey with Northwest Natural.
Thank you, Ian.
John Lang here from Washington Solar Energy Industries Association.
Thank you, John. All righty. Let's move on to review and approve minutes from our last meeting, January 26th. So pretty simple there. Take a look. Let me know if you need any corrections. If not, I'll take a motion.
This is Micah. I'll make a motion to approve with a question. Are these minutes posted on the meeting schedule? If not, can we have that posted, please?
Annette Stoyan.
The minutes are linked to the agenda. So,
okay.
Andrew, I'm sorry, Micah, are you asking for a standalone document? When you open the agenda, the minutes are listed there. I mean, linked there. So they're not posted as an attachment, but they're part of the agenda. Is that?
Yeah, I see it as part of the agenda, and you're talking about when you hit the link that says, please click here on the agenda to see meeting documents. When I select that, am I missing something? I don't see the minutes in that location.
I see review and approve minutes under agenda item 3. And when you click the minutes, they open.
Okay.
I think it's the clicking the January 28th, yeah?
Yeah.
Yes.
Separate section. Okay. I was looking at the link at the bottom of the agenda that says click here for meeting documents. When you go to that section, that's not there, but that's fine. It's on there.
This is Corey. I'd like to second Micah's motion with all of the questions and answers involved.
Thank you, Corey. Any further discussion? All righty. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? Any abstentions? And motion passes. So on to agenda item number 3, the report from on the economic impacts.
Mr. Chair, if I can start with some clarification.
Yep, go ahead.
So we have in the agenda IBC, IFC, and the energy code. For IBC and IFC, we develop preliminary cost benefit analysis It was, we didn't receive any comments related to the preliminary cost benefit analysis. We didn't have a single person asking us for more details. These two documents are posted on the website. We have the energy code. We developed a preliminary cost benefit analysis using the data from the proponents. We have a third party. We have a contract with Ecotop. They were working on the cost benefit analysis in the last couple of months. What we have currently and what you see posted on our website is a draft document. I send it in advance to the committee members for some feedback. We didn't get any. Here is the second chance. If you can provide some feedback for this draft cost benefit analysis. The task for Ecotop is to develop the final cost benefit analysis, taking into account the data from the proponents, data received by stakeholders and other parties, written comments and testimonies. And I think Henry is here, so he may be able to answer some questions. And please, let's concentrate on what we have in their work, in the cost benefit analysis they're working on, and not how we signed the contract and why. I will be able to answer these additional questions.
Okay, thank you, Stoyan. Tony, did you want to?
Chairman Klein, I have my hand raised for a point of order.
Oh, sure, go ahead, Corey.
I think we skipped item 2. I think we're supposed to review and approve the agenda as well. We approved the minutes.
You are correct. I apologize for that. Thank you. So yeah, now that we've tasted a little of the agenda, let's review it and approve it if you like where it's going.
This is Corey. I'd
I'll
like
take a motion
to
for that.
approve the agenda for today.
Thank you, Corey. Thank you, Shell. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And is anyone opposed? Any abstentions? And motion passes. So, all right, back to the cost benefit analyses. It was Tony from Ecotop, correct?
Henry.
I'm sorry. Henry, did you want to speak, or did you want your reports to speak for themselves?
I don't think I necessarily have any opening comments for it. We went through 19 of the 20 that were proposed to us, because one was actually submitted by Ecotop, and so that was reviewed separately. And I would think about maybe 12 to 14 of the 19 seem to have solid supporting data and good results, or solid supporting data and a well thought out process and reliable results. So we didn't really have to add much there, but our process with those ones was just to be sure that adequate resources were cited and presented in the proposal as required by the SBCC. Then there's 2 or 3 that were kind of in the middle, that either didn't have reliable resource references, but the hand calcs were in line with what we'd expect. So we checked those and came to similar results as presented by the proponent. Then there's a few that needed a fair bit more work, that are also very complicated proposals in general when you apply it across the whole state. So we added what we could, where we could, and again came out with similar results on the cost benefit analysis side. So we tried to share all that in the document attached, and that early table up front was an effort to kind of give a quick higher level review of what our opinions were about all the different cost benefit analyses without getting into the weeds of the actual report. So hopefully that gives a good summary for you to reference. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Henry. I guess the way we'll go through stuff, we'll start out with, well, okay, we'll start out with the Washington State Energy Code since we've got that up. So we'll start out with any committee discussion, then we'll open it up for public comment.
Can you see the draft report on the screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay. And there are other documents, so let me know whatever you want me to open, and I'll try to do that.
Okay, perfect. I think we'll let, you know, based on questions, we'll open up whatever is necessary. Caroline, go ahead.
Thank you, Andrew. Yeah, I guess to kick things off, Henry, like first, thank you for the thorough report and analysis. You know, I really see and appreciate the value that a third-party review brings to this process. So thank you for the work here. I guess in terms of method, you kind of just alluded to it a bit, but I was curious if you could speak a bit more to the decision that in some of these cases, in the appendix to this report, it appears you updated the provided life cycle cost analyses and revised them. And in other cases, there was more just commentary on potential improvements, but not updates to the actual analysis. So just curious if you could kind of speak to that method or process a bit more. Thanks.
Yeah, it's a good question. As I mentioned, there's a lot of proposals, about 19 of them, so it's hard to prioritize which needs that extra attention with the LCCA specifically. It was most straightforward to actually get into a new LCCA when the proponent provided reliable enough data that we could rework it into a similar analysis. A good example is the CMU walls. They referenced a study from, I think, 6 years ago, but used current cost data, but didn't quite mesh that together in a way that we thought was consistent. And so I was able to grab, find the report reference and pull that information in with some of the current cost data, which led to, enabled us to revise that LCCA. Certain other ones, I think there's some of the lighting ones down lower that didn't have really any reliable cost data or energy values for us to actually redo a life cycle cost analysis that would be accurate and reliable. Would require a lot of added background research from us, which, of course we could do, but within the scope and time frame of this analysis, it was pretty hard for us to come up with an entirely new approach with revised figures. And so sometimes we did fall a little bit short of actually coming back through with a new LCCA. And then for the space or the heat pump water heating, we were able to gather a lot of good cost data and actually run through with our own version of the LCCA. But in general, for both of the top two, they cover such a wide variety of building types and different systems that it's difficult to find a single new LCCA run or a certain example building that could represent the whole state. The heat pump water heating, we were able to choose kind of the worst case scenario, being the multifamily prototype. So we felt that was a good way to show a worst case and see what the payback might be. But for the space heating, there's just so many different building types, energy use, dollar values, and system types that without just finding reliable either modeling data or cost data is a pretty big undertaking in and of itself. And then obviously the ones that had reliable sources and reliable results, we didn't feel the need to check their LCCA as long as we knew that the sources referenced were deemed reliable by our team.
Thank you, Henry. Caroline, any additional follow-up questions or questions?
Yeah, I think, Henry, you kind of hit on one of the ones, the heat pump water heating one, a lot of kind of revisions and additional analysis was done there. And I think some of the issues, you highlight on the space heating proposal one are issues that, in my view, need to be addressed so that we have the correct data in front of us so that this group of people can make informed decisions. And so I think there you kind of allude, you added in the write-up some potential other data points, but I think one of the things we could discuss today is how that could get translated into an updated analysis for that specific measure, because I think that is just really important information for this group to have. So that's all.
Yeah, I would agree. And yeah, we definitely felt that on a couple of them where we kind of went through and it was more of a recommendation after our review to update costs or energy for pieces. And I am curious what the opportunity is for this group to actually infill with more information, or what chances proponents or this group would have to revise any of those figures. So
thanks, Henry. Caroline, anything else?
Not at this moment. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from committee members for now? All right, I will take questions from anyone. We'll open it up for public comment. So if you're able to raise your hand, please do that. Otherwise, I guess right now, if you can't raise your hand, you can speak up. All right, public comment on the, Kevin, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Klein and members of the council. I had a number of questions and comments, actually. Wanted to know if there was a time limit. I probably need 3 or 4 minutes tops.
Oh, no, there's no time limit. If you keep going on and on, we've got 90 minutes for the meeting. So I don't think we'll use it all, but if we start to get close, we'll figure that out.
Fair enough. So you probably noticed that the NWGA submitted a detailed comment letter on the CR 102 cost benefit report last week. Many of those comments have been addressed in Ecotope's review. Some do remain, and I wanted to focus on measures 136 and 179 in particular. For the heat pump water heating, 136, I appreciate that Ecotope reworked the design of the gas and heat pump water heating systems based on their expertise. I know they have a lot of experience. I just noted that the gas water heating system continues to be the best alternative per the life cycle cost analysis. And Ecotope's calculations show the gas system is less than 5% above the heat pump system per the social life cycle cost. And that's assuming 100% fossil gas, which is inaccurate actually for most commercial buildings in Washington, since some renewable natural gas is already flowing in pipes serving most customers right now. For the construction cost, I was wondering, did Ecotope include a larger mechanical room for the heat pump system for more storage and more equipment? I noted that the NWGA letter suggested 500 square feet might be needed, but I imagine that's changed with the redesign. I know that the tank sizes were decreased dramatically. But I was curious, how much additional space would Ecotope expect? And also what would be the cost basis for that square footage? And I'm assuming I should just ask my questions and then wait for a response, or should this be more of an interactive? I'm not sure.
I'd be happy to respond to that first one if that's okay with the council. We did not include price per square foot value for any added spatial requirements. From our own experience, especially the worst case would be a multifamily unit or multifamily building, and often there's plenty of corner spaces in the parking garage that you cannot fit cars in anyways. There's always plenty of extra storage space down there, so I don't usually assume that it requires added floor area, especially leasable floor area for these kinds of systems. But again, that's getting even further into all the different building prototypes and characteristics that would be hard to accurately estimate. So that was not included in our analysis.
Gotcha. And then for operating costs, the Ecotope report doesn't provide much breakout. In the proponents' detailed calculations, there is a significant assumption that swing heating would be provided by a heat pump water heater. However, the final version of the code proposal allows resistance heating for that purpose, so that operating cost should be included in that analysis. And that's significant because for the proponents' calculations, swing heating would be the majority of annual electricity use. It appears that's been incorporated into the Ecotope operating cost. I was just wondering if that's in fact so.
When you say swing heating, are you talking about the recirculation loop?
Yeah, for temperature maintenance.
Yeah, so our analysis assumed, the swing, we call it a swing tank. And so as the primary draw comes out of the main storage tanks, it primes this big recirc tank that does have an electric coil in it. So we found if you size that right, you can actually limit the amount of electric resistance in that tank, just because you get a much higher thermal mass of water filling up that recirc tank, which is heated by your primary system. There is another system type option with these types of heat pump water heaters where you actually have a temperature maintenance tanks that's served by a multi-pass heat pump, so you can actually remove the electric resistance entirely. But we only looked at one system layout for this analysis.
Makes sense. So I'm guessing that the operating costs you came up with were different than the proposed.
Yeah, basically D-rates. We look at what we call the system COP, so not just the equipment COP. And so the heat pump water heater might be rated at a certain point, but once you take in the electric resistance in the swing tank and D-rate, we like to look at a whole system, what it takes to deliver a unit of hot water to the end user, not just what the heat pump sees.
Gotcha. And I was also wondering if maintenance costs were included for either system or both systems.
They were not included for this one, for either one.
Gotcha. And I'm, I don't know what that would be. I'm not a maintenance guy. I'm a mechanical engineer. So curious if the operating cost details would be in the final report.
How do you mean by that?
Well, I maybe I missed something, but when I looked through the report, there was just a number for operating cost, whereas in the proponent's submittal, there were some details about energy use for both systems and things like that, as opposed to the present value number.
I hope there might be an appendix C if we can take a peek. I'm not sure.
Oh, okay. Like I said, I
might not have referenced it correctly, but kind of a breakdown of components and costs. If not, I'll make sure it's in the final.
Cool. Appreciate that reference. Yeah, I just thought it might be important to incorporate those elements, particularly since the social life cycle cost was relatively close, and life cycle analyses are pretty sensitive to the economic inputs. Also, just wanted to note that there was a minority amendment to Proposal 136. And I believe if that had been accepted, that the resulting gas-fired system should be the lowest cost choice because it would have allowed condensing water heaters that need less space, less storage, have higher efficiency than the code minimums equipment. And those advantages would mean a lower cost system to own and operate than the gas system used for this analysis, but perhaps a minor point since that's a minority amendment. I also wanted to talk about the electric receptacles measure 179. And again, I appreciate Ecotope's review of this measure. However, the analysis didn't include the significant additional costs of the electrical infrastructure from the street up to and including each unit's electrical panel. Specifically the larger unit panels, larger central house panels, larger feeders to connect all of those panels, larger switch gear, larger service wiring, larger transformers, which may or may not be a cost of the owner, that might be on the utility. But speaking of the utility, there may be a utility cost to serve. Since gas appliances can last for decades, these receptacles won't be loaded for many years and maybe never. That makes a building constructed to this standard a bad utility investment that won't be recoverable at the same rate as actual building loads. And that's likely to spur a cost to serve, which is utility speak for the fee charged to bring service to the building. Also wanted to note that, as Ecotope does, this measure saves no energy, so it's not the least cost path. And that was the whole of my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Next up, Tom. We'll do Tom, then Ian, and then Laura. So, Tom, floor is yours.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, we can.
Okay, there we go. Perfect. Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to talk a little bit about this additional study that we're looking at. I do have a couple of questions of Henry, as the last gentleman did, so maybe we'll go through them maybe one at a time. Just an opening comment. I think that the study is somewhat interesting in that it in many ways supports some of my past comments and position that the proponent of code change proposals 207 and 208 did not provide sufficient documentation to support the proposals. The Ecotope group talks about insufficient information, difficult to access, unclear, can't be validated. These are some of the same points I've been making throughout the process. And to me, the proposal should, that lends the thought that the proposals possibly should not have been approved or moved forward by the tag, because all those questions remained at that point, and the questionable documents were what were relied upon to actually move it forward. So the proposal, the current study does support some of the comments again made in the past. So I'd like that to be noted. In terms of what was done on Ecotope's behalf, Henry, it seems like I understand this, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you use the cost data that was provided. We have some serious questions about that cost data, but I assume you use the same cost data. I don't believe you ran any additional runs or did any additional modeling, so I believe you used the energy data that was provided as well. Changing, it looks like in the life cycle analysis, the length of time from 50 to 25 years and changing the discount rate. Are those all correct assumptions, or were there some other changes that Ecotope made?
Yeah, so yeah, we did make the note that it was hard to find that study, but we did come across it, and that was a reliable modeling study. It was a modeling study completed by Mike Kennedy several years ago. So we did pull those energy numbers from that study and use the current cost numbers. The revision of the discount rate was just to go back to the default values given by the state and their tool. So that was just to use standard assumptions. And then the 50 to 25 year measure life was just to make it a more conservative review in terms of the LCCA. And we also use the, I think the fiber reinforced gypsum board as another method to increase that upfront cost again. But when we reran the LCCA, we came to same results as the proponent.
Well, the proponent concluded that the baseline wall was the best choice in their analysis. The 25 years being conservative, as you say, I think that depends on which point of view you're taking. If you're looking from a masonry, durable concrete masonry standpoint, 25 years would not be a long enough time period. You want to go beyond those major replacement costs that the gypboard system would incur. So I would argue that it should have been looked at 50 years, as is typically done. Again, for that very reason, that you're missing that major reinvestment on the one system which contains the gypboard.
Yeah, I'll clarify that. The study life is 50 years. In the original cost benefit, the equipment life was also 50 years. So the material cost was 50, and we dropped the material to 25 and kept the study ran over a 50-year time span. So you did actually include that replacement cost in this revised analysis.
And so what about then maintenance costs? Are they included at all?
I think I might have put the LCC at the bottom of this report.
Yeah, if you can go there is a couple of pages that show it on 22 and 23 in your report, if we can go to those.
Yeah, it does not appear there's maintenance costs.
Yeah, so there's going to be a lot of maintenance costs in these building types. Now, remember, the building types that we're talking about that are permitted, it's not all building types. It's warehouse type buildings, tire service buildings, gymnasium. So these are buildings that have some pretty severe usage and demand on the wall systems internally. So maintenance is going to be a big issue, and again, you're going to have replacement costs for sure on those drywall systems. Even a more durable drywall isn't going to last more than 25 years, and there's going to be maintenance costs throughout the period of the first and second 25-year periods. So those are missing here, and then
those are those are included. It's a 50-year study and it's a 25-year measure, so you do actually include that replacement in this, what we're looking at here.
So you're saying you do have replacement included?
Yeah. If you scroll down a little bit, it should have a 25-year. Go down one more. So that's the baseline. That's vermiculite, and then if you go down one more, is 25 useful life is years there, and so what that'll do is it replaces that cost dollars per unit after 25 years.
Okay. No maintenance, but replacement then.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. And I'll just note that, and that's one of the problems we have with the original proposal as well. If you get estimates on that system today, current cost estimates, and even actually several years ago when we debated the same issue, the 429 isn't anywhere near close. Those systems run about $6 a square foot back 6-7 years ago, and now they're running about $9 a square foot for that whole replacement system. So the 4 is not even half of what it should be. So I will point that out. And then if you can scroll up just to that previous page for me, please. Let's see, a little higher up, I guess. There we go. Thank you. So our energy use intensity here, you said you used the data from Mike Kennedy, but those numbers are not the same as Mike Kennedy used. So I'm curious what's different there.
Yeah, Mike's analysis was energy use per, I think, 1,000 square foot of wall area. And this EUI is misleading. I used the proponent's example retail building. I think it's like if you scroll up, it might have it a little bit above here. It was just a sample building that they use in their code proposal, whereas Mike did it more on a normalized energy per square foot of wall. So that was kind of just a relic of meshing the two together. I wouldn't say this EUI has any relatable value between either proposal. It's just how this tool works when you put in a square footage.
So I guess I'm not clear what you're saying, Henry. Is it from the 25,000 square foot retail? It's from Mike's modeling, or where is it from? I'm sorry, I'm just not following you there. I know the numbers are different. You had indicated the wall area versus floor area. Can you explain that for me one more time? 9.8 versus 2.3.
I took the energy values from Mike's analysis. So really what this LCCA wants is just a delta in energy and a delta in cost. And so I took the energy from Mike's report, and I backfilled with the added cost from the current proposal. So it really shouldn't matter what the floor area is, because the proposal has $1 per square foot of wall, and Mike's energy use is energy per square foot of wall. So really I could just delete this square footage at the top, and it would have the same results using the same two data sources I referenced. So it might be misleading that I included the building square footage here and gives an EUI, but the energy use in the actual runs is from Mike's directly.
But his was like 0.2 thousand BTUs per square foot. And here we see much different numbers here, the difference between the two.
I believe his was per wall area. I can verify that, but
yeah. I'm not sure if his is wall area, floor area or not, but the energy use there is the differential is quite different. The wall area and the floor area in that type of building are not going to be too much apart, too far apart, actually. Not to get this order of magnitude difference between roughly 10 and 2.
So Henry, you want to make a note of?
Yeah, I will.
Okay, Tom, is it okay? So we're starting to get more hands raised. So
okay,
I am going to have to shepherd folks a little faster. So yeah, Henry will make a note of that.
Okay, and that was Andrew. That was my last question. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ian, go ahead.
Yeah, hi, good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to provide some feedback. I was wanting to specifically address the analysis for the space heating proposal today. Had a couple comments and observations, and then maybe a couple questions directly for Mr. Odom as well. I just want to start off. I see where it was identified that the source data from the California study provided incorrectly uses VAV with an electric resistant heat as an option for electrification. But however, I just wanted to point out, which I think you found, that under the current provision of the CR 102, that a VAV with electric resistance heat would not be permitted. And then Ecotope in turn offered an alternate source from PNNL, a study from 2011 comparing VRF to VAV. So again, this study was a little dated. It's 10 years old, and it's referencing some data older than that. Clearly, we have some labor and material costs that are not quite accurate in our current economy, which I think is what the last gentleman stated. Trying to get some data that's more current there would be ideal. But it did have a interesting finding at the end of that slide deck that the cost advantage for VRF had about a 1% advantage over the VAV after 15 years. So kind of just a comment and observation that I'm seeing here is that with kind of the changes in the current CR 102, it makes it really infeasible to install a VAV in Washington anymore that has if you can't use electric resistance heat or a boiler fueled hot water reheat. So just overall removing another affordable HVAC system option from HVAC designers, and really kind of only allowing a packaged or a split heat pump system or VRF. That's really just kind of an observation there. Wanted to kind of address some of the statements that were made, one of which was requiring cooling compressor to work in heating would not add upfront capacity increases to the HVAC system. And I could agree with that, but I think there is a cost impact to that. I would argue that packaged heat pumps have additional parts and controls that add to the cost. Things like a reversing valve, defrost board, and heat strips. And in general, I think if you call an HVAC vendor and ask for a price on a gas pack unit and then ask for an equivalent heat pump unit of that same size, you're generally going to see a higher price for that heat pump option. And I don't quite see where that's reflected in the analysis. Also, kind of something that with this statement to consider is the life cycle costs of the heat pump equipment. If you have a compressor that is now working to provide heating and cooling, therefore you're providing twice as much runtime on that compressor than a gas unit. I mean, I would think you could expect to see half the service life on that equipment. And so I guess one of my questions for you, Henry, is that is that reflected somehow, that decreased service life of a heat pump versus maybe a gas pack unit? Is that reflected anywhere in the analysis?
Versus a gas pack.
Yeah.
I referenced the BOMA kind of equipment life cycle document that ASHRAE uses. It's not directly related to your question, but heat pump life expectancy is the same as an AC unit, pretty sure, both at 15 years. I don't know the difference between a gas pack versus a compressor, however, but I do feel like they're still in the same 13 to 15 year lifespan. But no, it's not currently in this analysis.
Okay. Another item I was seeking some clarification on, I believe it was further down in the cost analysis. It says the California cost effectiveness study the proponent uses rightly considers the cost of natural gas and electric infrastructure. Both scenarios, it considers the upfront cost of equipment. For the electrical infrastructure, it considers electrical paneling, wiring, electrical lengths, and the cost per linear foot. For natural gas, it considers metering, service extension, and distribution. I just want some clarification and maybe a comment there that typically the metering and service extension to get the meter to the building is usually covered by the utility and not the customer. Just wondering how that was reflected in your analysis, if you're counting those costs of the meter and service extension as a cost burden to the customer or to the utility.
As we mentioned here, we're pointing out that the study used by the proponent considers these pieces of infrastructure. We're bringing it up as a means to try to show a comparison between the two. But that California study was not our own study.
Okay. And then one other thing I wanted to address was what the proponent has assumed for the future natural gas prices. He cites World Bank long-term forecast of 80% increase in natural gas prices over the coming decade. And then also assumes that electrical rates are going to be largely unaffected by this type of rate increase in the future. Obviously, this assumption is going to have a big impact on the operational and life cycle costs. And we've done some analysis trending backwards. And if just adjusted for inflation, the real spot price for natural gas has dropped 32% since 1997. I just wanted to get kind of your input on how you are utilizing the future natural gas rates in the study, and if you're using what the proponent used or something different.
The tool provided by the state, the life cycle cost tool, has assumed fuel escalation rates. And so we use the default values from the state when we redo the life cycle cost. I can't speak for the proponent's assumptions.
All right. Thank you, Ian. Thank you,
you.
Henry. Laura, go ahead.
Thanks. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, we can.
Thanks. This is Laura Petrillo Grow with AHRI. Thanks for hosting this meeting. I just have a few questions on the analysis. And I also had a little bit of trouble finding some of the information on proposal 103, which is of interest to me. So, I guess first, process question. If we're gonna, this is very helpful to understand the process that that you all went through to analyze, or Ecotop went through to analyze these proposals and demonstrate, maybe changes that need to take place to really validly estimate the cost impact of the proposals. Is there an opportunity to provide more detailed written comments in responding to this and have those taken into account?
Can
I guess whether they're taking, yeah, go ahead, Stoyan.
So the time frame for written testimony was until March 11th. So we closed the opportunity for written testimony because we need time to prepare the documents and make them available for the council. Suggestions in writing for Ecotop, yes, but this shouldn't be considered currently part of the testimony. Okay, so we already passed the time for official testimony. This is something that we're talking about, the cost benefit analysis, and the council staff, the work group of economic impact, the council members, and of course Ecotop, we may be able to take into account some or all, it doesn't matter, but anything in writing is welcome, but again, it's not part of the formal testimony.
Okay,
that makes sense, Laura.
It was my understanding that this report wasn't available prior to the end of written testimony. And maybe I got that wrong.
The report that was posted was the preliminary cost benefit analysis. And it was available. Here we're talking about the draft that in a week or two will be the final, or a month will be the final cost benefit analysis. So this is for, again, several entities, including Ecotop, to take into account if there are comments that can be included. Again, okay. Submitting something in writing, great, but it's not a testimony for the proposals. It's a comment for this draft.
Just what you're saying is we had the preliminary document to review.
Yes.
Now this has come out. We can make comments on that. We'll try to get those incorporated. You can submit written testimony, but it will not officially be a public comment. Correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay, thanks. I appreciate that understanding. And a few questions that I have. If I understood one of the previous speakers who noted there was a note about electrical panels and upgrades that may be necessary when comparing between the gas heating or vapor compression heating. Is that was that taken into account here?
Yes, we included it for the even with water heating. If you see in our breakdown of costs, there'll be a transformer upsize, and it would also apply to. Might not actually necessarily apply to the space heating one, but definitely for the water heating.
Sure. So, and it seems that there were some common HVAC systems or some common, I would say, building types in this in the analysis and the cost analysis for 103. Did you find that representative for the other 40% of the commercial floor area in the state, where you may have different kinds of systems, perhaps, or where different technologies may be implemented?
Yeah, we started to look into that. We did a modeling study a few years ago, looking at progress of the energy code, and we found that rooftop units, rooftop heat pump, single zone heat pumps and such, would cover about 60% of the state, roughly across the different building types. And that system was included in the proponent's proposal here, although we noted some issues there. But then, yeah, as you mentioned, there's several other system types, and how those mix in with different building energy use patterns, and what's your baseline compared to proposed is a pretty complicated question to answer.
Thanks. So then it was, would you say the ecotope analysis was more limited to space types that were also included by the proponent?
Yes, if you look at, rooftop units, it's going to be, retail, storage, restaurants, a little bit of schools. If you look at VRF, you got all your offices, get some high-rise buildings, some multifamily. So yeah, it was the two system types, but those two would represent over 50% easily for our study. But it did omit a few other system types, like 4-pipe hydronic or other entirely different systems.
Thanks. And then I guess my last question is, there are, the current code proposal has, I think, some additional requirements regarding systems to be coupled with, VRF. I think in most cases, DOAS would be required to introduce outdoor air. Is the cost of any additional mechanical components that would be needed to comply with code, would that have been included in either the 103 proposal or your analysis?
So DOAS would already be required, so that wouldn't be a cost burden put on by this proposal specifically, even though they do pair well. So I was really just looking at just the cost of the space heating equipment, not necessarily other, especially previous code requirements.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Henry. Did I hear a rooster in the background of one of yours?
Definitely not me.
Henry, no, that's pretty cool. We're used to hearing animals in the background now, but yeah, that's one of the first times I've heard a rooster. Johnny, and then Scott, and then from there we're gonna make sure. I don't think there'll be any comments on the IBC or IFC, but we'll move over there, and then we can come back to the energy code if there are additional comments there. But go ahead, Johnny.
Thank you so much, Andrew. Yeah, first I wanted to thank Ecotope for putting out this cost benefit analysis and for correcting a few errors that I made in my initial proposal submission. I want to respond to a few comments that have been said, specifically about the operating cost assumption inputs. I think this has been said a couple times. I just want to kind of clarify things that I use the same rates that Ecotope should be using. There in the life cycle cost analysis tool, there is a required operating cost rate that is required for all of the proposals, and the same with the fuel escalation. So should be the same as what is now in the updated life cycle cost analysis. And this cost analysis, the operating cost analysis, actually is probably not accurate. The assumed operating cost values, because it doesn't take into account the Climate Commitment Act increase in cost of gas, which would likely be higher due to the floor price of carbon, which will be implemented, especially for new construction buildings starting in a couple of years. I don't know if that's something that Ecotope could look into at all. I know it's sort of basically reflects the social cost of carbon analysis. Would probably be a more accurate cost analysis once the Climate Commitment Act is implemented. And I also wanted to respond to the line extension allowance comment that person from the gas industry said. The line extension allowances aren't quote unquote covered by the gas industry, but they're actually like rate based, and customers actually have to pay for it in the cost of gas. So that's already reflected in the operating costs. And currently those based on the line extension allowances are based off of depreciation schedules that are on very long timelines that are decades out, sometimes 30 to 50 years out, which is not aligned with what the Washington State Energy Strategy recommends on how we're going to be able to decarbonize buildings. We can't be operating the gas system in 50 years and still be decarbonized if we're going to do it by the least cost basis. So I think the allowances are actually currently being discussed and will likely be reduced over time. So I don't think that that is something that should be changed or modified in any way. Thank you.
Thank you, Johnny. Henry, did you want to respond to anything? I don't think it's necessary, but
no, I don't think I have any responses. Thanks.
Okay. Scott, go ahead.
Hey, Scott Peterson with the Northwest Gas Association. Laura kind of asked my question, but on the chance we want to provide more, now that we have the updated analysis from Ecotope, we want to provide additional written comments, more thoughtful than we can do verbally. And understanding what Stoyan said, that these will not be part of the CR 102 record, but still we'd like to potentially share some analysis with Ecotope. Is there like a deadline? Well, one, who would we send it to? And two, is there a deadline, not like an official deadline, but a time where if we are past that, the analysis wouldn't be helpful to you because you'll be done or mostly done?
Henry, Stoyan, well, there is no official deadline, but Henry, is there a date by which, if it's after that, it's very unlikely you'll be able to incorporate anything?
I'd have to work with Stoyan to figure out when we are expected to deliver our final draft. I think he had mentioned 2 to 3, maybe 4 weeks. So I would request anything within the next 1 or 2 at least, but that's kind of a broader schedule that maybe Stoyan can touch on.
So we have the council meeting on Friday, on March 18th. The council members will debate and the code proposals and will take into consideration the testimony that we receive, verbal and written testimony. They will also have the draft that you folks have today, and there may be other comments during the council meeting. The meeting when the council members will adopt the codes is scheduled for April 22nd. So by April 22nd, there should be something not, well, I don't know if I can tell, if I can say it, a draft, but a final draft. So this is the document that is 99% a final cost benefit analysis. Council members will take it into account when they vote on different codes, including the energy codes. If there are changes at this last final meetings to proposals, then Ecotop needs to modify and take into account the changes. So as Henry said, 2 weeks max. If you folks can provide your comments and suggestions, that will be a good unofficial time frame. And again, I will coordinate with Henry. I don't know how much time he needs to modify whatever he needs to modify. So we'll coordinate and I will be able to provide additional information. I will try at the council meeting on Friday.
Consensus. Thank you. So Scott, does that answer your question? So as soon as possible. And if I can make a suggestion.
Perfect. Thank you, Soren. So if I could add a day to your deadline, there's a Friday, April 1st. Could we use Friday, April 1st as the unofficial deadline to get you comments?
Well, April 1st is kind of odd date, but yes, Friday, April 1st sounds good.
Well, everything from us will be serious, no jokes included.
Okay, I will appreciate that.
And if I can make a suggestion to everyone, remember, these are unofficial comments. Please make them as clear as possible. Remember, at this point, they're the comments of how you want things addressed. So the commentary on things probably isn't important unless it shows why, things need to be addressed. I'd suggest, you be very clear with bullet points or whatever of exactly what changes are necessary and why, so they can be implemented if Henry agrees. I don't see any more hands raised. We can come back to energy in case anyone does, but I would like to open up the floor first for the committee and then for public comment for the IFC and the IBC. All right, any comments from the public on the IBC or IFC reports? Okay, so we'll continue on with energy code or anything, I guess. The floor is open to any of the codes if there are any more public comments.
Thank you. I have that noted. Can you guys hear me better? A little better.
If I can try to clarify a little bit more the process, Andrew, a minute or two. What is Ecotop doing right now? So again, we have the preliminary cost benefit analysis. So we use the data, council staff use the data. Krista put so many hours on this, and this is part of the initial submittal. So it goes with the CR 102, and this is what we were. This is a document that you folks were supposed to comment, right? Ecotop will give everybody a different perspective. It will be a different viewpoint. So it's not the data submitted by the proponents. It's not the data modified by staff, but it will give you and the council members a different viewpoint. So in this case, you will have several documents that you can rely on. It's understandable that, there won't be 100% agreement on this. The cost benefit analysis always requires interpretation of something always requires a position. So Ecotop and the council staff, we're doing the best we can, but you just need to remember that these are complicated projects. This is a complicated work, and there will be disagreements no matter what. So I'm not sure if I'm helping with this, but I want to have your understanding.
All right. Thank you, Stoyan. Michelle.
Yeah, I wanted to commend Ecotop on the report. I think it's great at looking beyond the proponent's analysis and finding the holes, and in many cases filling those holes. I think that's really important for this group to see, and also that they generally came to the same conclusion as the proponent, I think is also important for this group to see. So I want to, this is, I guess when we were talking about what this report would be, this is much better than I expected it to be, just based on the time frame and all that. So I would just wanted to thank Ecotop for their diligence in putting this together.
Thank you, Shel. And yep, I agree. Henry, you've done a phenomenal job. And I appreciate everyone else on the call who have comments, who are contributing to making it even better. Any other comments or discussion? Annette, if we can get the agenda back up. I'm not sure if we need formal action or not.
Yeah, that was what I was going to ask is it implied that Ecotop can and will take these comments and staff will help direct them to do so, or does action need to be taken by this?
Stoyan, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think any action needs to be taken.
If we have it as needed, but Henry, I assume he got our recommendations, and we will have the records and the recording file and link, sorry, and we'll have the minutes. But I don't think we need to vote on anything right now. This is a draft. The intent for this meeting was for Ecotop to have some comments. If the work group of economic impact committee believes that a formal direction is needed for staff and Ecotop, yes, vote will be needed. But if we're just collecting the feedback, then I don't think we need to vote.
I'd agree with that. So yeah, any member can make a motion, but no action is necessary. So let me ask one more time on item number 4, since we're still there, if there are any comments based on the cost benefit analyses of the IBC, IFC, or commercial energy code.
And Krista just told me something that I forgot. This is what we started with, but I forgot to mention it again. We have another. So Ecotop had a submittal, and we didn't ask them to provide a second opinion on their own submittal. So we asked for help, PNNL, and they submitted a memo, which is specific to proposal 078. This is what Ecotop submitted. So my question here is if there are questions related to this particular submittal, and do you folks want to review the PNNL memo related to proposal 078?
All right. Comments, opinion? Micah?
Thanks. So I didn't have a comment on the separate item from or for the Ecotope proposal, but I did have a question, and I'm sorry coming late to this, but, and maybe I missed it in a previous meeting. Did Henry explain how to read this report, especially the revised calculations in appendix, say appendix A? When you go in there, they're indicating a baseline and then an alternative 1 and an alternative 2. What are those alternatives and what is the baseline? And is that identified somewhere in the report that I'm missing? Is that okay if I ask that question? So I apologize again for a late question, but that would be helpful to me in explaining to others the information in this report and explaining the updated cost analysis.
Yeah, so if you're probably looking at that executive summary, baseline alt 1, alt 2. If you scroll down just below that, you'll see 2 more screenshots from the actual input page. And I tried to label, one will say baseline and have a measure. So I'm not sure which one you're looking at, but if it's CMU walls, you'll see like a vermiculite baseline cost. And then, yeah, if you scroll down, it's going to be like page 27 or 28, I think, just towards the very end. Yeah, there you go. So this table.
27, did you say?
Go up, sorry, you can go up from here, about 2 or 3 pages. So yeah, stop right there. So here it just says baseline alt 1, alt 2, but if you scroll down directly below it, just to this next screenshot.
Right here?
One more.
One more.
So you can see this is the baseline input page, and this measure listed there says vermiculite 50%. It says number of units, and then it gives your cost. And then if you scroll down to the next one, you'll see alt 1 shows R9.5, so that's the rigid insulation. And if you scroll up to the heat pump water heating one, so up 2 pages, it should label it baseline, yeah, gas baseline, central heat pump water heater. And you can see the baseline inputs, the heat pump water heater, and alt 1 would be the gas baseline. You scroll down a little bit more. And it's basically, it triggers it once you have a number of units in this column. So on this one here, right, there's nothing on that line for heat pump water heater, but for gas, you're saying you have one of these systems, costs 58 grand, useful life is 15 years, and then it runs the savings from there.
Fantastic. Thank you for the information. That will be helpful in explaining it to others.
Any other questions or comments?
So here is the memo I was talking about for proposal 078. It is posted on our website and it will be part of this package documents.
All right. Thank you, Stoyan. All right. Last chance for item number 4, then we'll move on to other business. Okay. Other business. Any public comments or committee comments or staff comments?
I want to show our website one more time. I saw a few comments in the chat, and just give me a second. So on the website, we're trying to have all information on the website, but we are not IT folks. You know, we are doing this in addition to all other work that we have. So if there is something you don't like or you need more, let us know. We do the best we can. But so what we have currently, I showed this at one of the council meetings. Right here, 2021 code adoption cycle. And when you click on 2021 code adoption cycle, you will see the accordion here with all building codes. I will use the building code, or let's go to the state energy code. It's better. So we have a link that will lead you to the technical advisory group page. So all work is here, and here is the CR 102, which is the initial proposal. Okay, this includes all proposals that we've been discussing in the last a few months. These are all written testimony that we received. Krista has been doing a great job to file this, and keep in mind that we received thousands, not hundreds this time, thousands. We have the public hearings here. We have the transcripts. We have the preliminary cost benefit analysis. So again, we're doing the best we can. Right here on 2021 proposals, we don't have only the proposals, we have all needed information. We have all proposals for group one. We have the reports with one exception here, and we'll keep updating the website. So all of the information that is used for this, excuse me, code adoption cycle, everything is currently on the website. So your comments and feedback is always appreciated. My request for you is just be more specific. And if you are more specific, then we can concentrate on specific issues. So I'm not saying we don't make mistakes, but we do the best we can.
So, and this is Ray. I'd like to add too that in the mix of trying to make the website as easy to navigate as possible, sometimes it gets muddy. So if you get into the website and you can't find anything, feel free to use the contact us, and usually we can just email it to you really quickly if you're having a hard time finding something.
In the past, we didn't have much on the website. We are trying to have everything on the website now, but as Ray is saying, sometimes you feel like you're in the forest and you can't find the right tree. So let us know, and we'll try to help.
Thank you. Andrea, you had your hand raised.
Yeah, I guess my one piece of feedback is it would be tremendously helpful when, like, so there was a initial preliminary cost benefit analysis, and then say there was an update, to be able to put that like on the front page of the website under building code news, just basically saying that like, hey, we've replaced or updated this said document. It can be found at the 2021 code adoption cycle page. I think just being a little bit more clear when things are changing so fast might help the process go a little easier next time.
Appreciate your feedback. Yeah, we're constantly learning, so thank you. Any other comments or questions? Micah.
Sorry, I'm always asking late questions. I did put an additional question in the chat to Henry, and that can be addressed at another time, but it was asking if there was a estimated cost per BTU for electric and gas in the appendices, especially appendix, sorry, I didn't get to it quick enough. Appendix B, where it talks about the percentage of savings and the annual energy usage results. It's showing a significant difference in BTUs, but there's no cost there. And I was wondering if there was an estimated cost per BTU that they have identified.
I think if this came with a written response, I might be able to get you a better answer, or a written question.
Perfect, I can do that.
Okay, thank you.
Beautiful. Last chance. Any comments or questions? All right, Stoyan, anything else? Ray, did you
No.
want to make any announcements? I don't want to force you to, but you're welcome to.
No, I think I know where you're going with this.
I was leaving it for Ray.
I'll just make a small announcement that this week is probably my last week of meetings. I am going off on another endeavor. My last day with the State Building Code Council will be, it's Friday the 25th will be my last working day. So anybody that's here that's not at the next two meetings, it's been a pleasure working with you. I have learned more from this experience working for the State Building Code Council than I could at any other state agency or government department, and it's been a great pleasure.
And I don't like him right now.
Oh, Ray, we appreciate all you've done. So you'll be hard to replace.
Well, I appreciate that.
He'll be back. He'll miss the council.
Ray, whenever you do travel off to your next greener grasses, just picture me twisting in the wind with the plumbing tag. Thank you.
I will.
Me with the fire tag.
Well, you'll be missed, Ray. You were very helpful, especially with me being new to the council. And so I just appreciate all the effort you put into getting me set up, getting us set up for the tag. And it's unfortunate that we couldn't go all the way through it. But anyway, good luck wherever you're going.
I appreciate it. And I plan on making a couple more announcements at probably the BFP and the council meeting. So it's been a pleasure.
Just you're dead to me now.
Ray, I'll still talk to you. I don't hold it against you. I realize there's transience and mutability in everything in life.
You'll still see him, guys. I'm going to steal him over to Wabo TCD, so I'm going to make him work there. So.
Well, thank you, Ray. We'll be thanking you, I think, in all of our meetings.
I didn't. I'm sorry, Andrew, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was just going to say, if usually I get the next question, I'll be. I took a position as a building official for the city of DuPont.
Congratulations. So we'll be getting your interpretation questions.
More than likely.
Or opinions, I guess they are now. Okay, anything else for the good of the order? Again, I want to thank everyone for your time, your expertise, your precision going through everything. Henry, thank you so much. I apologize, it took me a little while to learn your name, but I got it now. So with that, we will adjourn. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Thanks.